Hey everyone, good morning. I'm back for another Facebook Live. Due to popular demand, we're going to chat about promoted listings on Etsy and Amazon ads, okay? And how to use it effectively, both of them. I'm going to answer several questions. The more popular questions, which is how to choose which listings to promote, how much you should bid per item, and what to do when you're spending too much on your ad campaign, okay? It's pretty much managing your promoted listings and your Amazon ads. We're going to chat about both of them separately. So first we're going to talk about Etsy promoted listings, and when that's done, we're going to talk about Amazon ad campaigns, okay? Because they are, while the idea is the same, they are, different in the way you use them. So let's talk about Etsy promoted listings. Again, by popular demand, people have been asking me about it. They want to make sure that they're using it effectively, meaning they want to spend money on it, but the smallest amount of money and get the most return, right? I mean, wouldn't you want to spend $10 and get $1,000 back as opposed to $10 and you only get $20 back, right? So that's using promoted listings effectively, okay? But it's easier said than done, You can't just simply lower your bid amount and all of a sudden things magically happen. It costs you less to get clicked on, and therefore, when you get a sale, it'll be much less. It's not as simple as that. And so I'm going to walk you through some steps today in the order you have to do them to make sure you're using it effectively, to make sure that you're utilizing your money the best way you can, okay? And then I'll, of course, discuss the same thing for Amazon ad campaigns. And we're also going to talk about which listings to promote. Not every listing is created equal. Some will probably bring you in more money than the others. Just FYI, okay? Let's talk about how to choose listings to promote. I'm going to talk about it in respect to Etsy promoted listing. We're talking about Etsy first, okay? So in Etsy promoted listings, the platform that you get to use to promote your listings, you're able to choose which ones you want to promote. It's simple, and each one you want to promote, okay, will get shown in search that you paid for, okay, and it's you get to choose which ones and choose the bid amount, okay, the cost per click for each item, okay, the maximum amount of cost per click, okay. But before that, you have to choose how much you want to spend on a daily basis, the max, okay? And so most of us, some of us actually have more, some of us may have a little less when you're first starting. Most of us have the maximum bid amount of $10. Here's my first advice to you. Spend what you're comfortable with. You might not even hit $10, but if you're like, I can't afford $10 a day, that's fine. Do $5 a day, do $4 a day, whatever you feel comfortable with to start out with, okay? That's the first advice, because the reality is, even if I tell you to spend $20 a day, if you can't afford it at this moment, then you can't do it. Now, eventually, if you start to see that it's working well for you and you're making money from it, then it would only make sense to increase it, but when you're comfortable, okay? Choose the daily bid amount that you're comfortable with. That's number one. Number two, which listings do you choose to promote, okay? And here are the 3 surefire ways to at least get some good results. Number one, promote relevant things. So let me explain. So depending on the season and what you sell and a whole bunch of things, I'm going to give you an example, of course. If Mother's Day is approaching, or let's just call it how it is, Valentine's Day is approaching, people should be buying things, have been buying things, or should be buying things like the next couple days to actually receive it on time. You should be promoting the best listings that are most relevant to Valentine's Day. If Mother's Day is coming up, promote the listings that are most relevant to Mother's Day. That make great gift sets, that make great gifts. If you are in the wedding industry, during the wedding industry like time where people are buying much more, your peak times, you should definitely be promoting those listings that are relevant to that. You get the point, right? Obviously, like a lot of things could really work well in your store for Mother's Day or Valentine's, like for gifts in general. If you're a jewelry store, they might say, Dahlia, everything works for this relevant time. I mean, not everything, but you get the point. Like a majority of listings, do I promote all of them? Absolutely, you're more than welcome to. That's number one. If you want to be picky and choosy, it's up to you. I would focus on the relevant and popular items, okay? So not only are you promoting relevant items during this time period, and the reason why we're choosing relevant, guys, is because it gives a higher likelihood that it will get clicked on and purchased, okay, because it's relevant to this time. You're more welcome to choose all of them, or if you want to pick and choose, I choose the more popular and relevant listings. So if all your shop is relevant to Mother's Day, let's say you sell jewelry and they all work for Mother's Day, then choose the most popular one. I'm not saying 3 of them. If you have a shop of 200 items, or let's say 100 items, don't just choose 2 popular. Choose a grouping of popular items that you feel will do the best, that you get the most bang for your buck. Instead of spending money on listings that are okay, no offense, but you have popular ones out there, choose to promote those, okay? Let me go into the last thing you should be promoting. Okay, last thing you're promoting is new things. Now, a lot of us tend to have questions about SEO and really optimizing a listing when you first start out creating it, right? You create a beautiful item, you list it, you take photos, everything, you work on your SEO strategy, everything's looking good, you know, and of course you know how it rolls depending on the market, depending on your items. It might take some time to crawl to the top of search, especially if you have your SEO properly. If not, then you might be really screwed. And depending on Etsy's mood and the search algorithm, you never know, right? So if you want to give your new items a better chance to survive, not a chance to survive, because it still can have a chance to survive if you just work on your SEO and give it some time. But if you want to give it a better chance to survive, promoted listings is the way to go. So if you make this new collection, let's say 15 items, and you're really proud, like really, really proud of 5 of them, right? And how do you tell which ones you're really proud of? A little tip I use is I think about if Oprah magazine said to me, hey, we want to feature 5 of your items, which ones would you choose? And which ones would you not be embarrassed to, you know, show? Or which ones that you know that if you showed, her target customer base would be very interested in purchasing, right? So think about it like that. Which ones are you most proud of? And so you could, again, you still have the option to promote all of them. If you're like, you got no budget, I'll spend all day long. I feel like they'll give me a decent money, you know, decent amount for it'll give me a decent return on my investment, then go ahead and do all of them. But I'd highly recommend starting out with the most popular ones. Don't promote everything. And here's the key why. I hope you listen to this tip, okay? You promote everything. Sometimes your sucky item, not sucky item, but you know what I'm saying, the ones that are not really in demand, you know, will show to the top of search because you're paying for an ad more than the more popular ones, right? So then you're just wasting your space and wasting time and wasting money, okay? So again, if it's competing for the same keyword phrases, then choose a more popular item to start out with. If you're not, and you find that people are clicking and not purchasing, it's probably in your best interest to deactivate that listing, meaning don't promote it anymore. There's definitely some designs that you have that are much better than others. It's just what the customer is telling you. Let those shine instead, okay? So again, choose the most popular ones, okay, and or the most relevant ones for the time frame you're promoting them, okay? And if you want to give your new listings a shot to survive, to kind of get it to the top of search immediately. Again, if you're not competing with your own listings, because if I'm trying to get something to the top of search for personalized stationery, it may compete very well and end up beating out my most popular seller, and maybe for good reason, that's fine. Choosing a select few or a handful or whatever, depending on what you have new, it's probably the best choice as opposed to doing all of them. Okay, which ones are you most proud of? Okay, let me answer a few questions here before I move on to the next piece, okay? Hi, what did you mean some listings are better for Etsy promoted listings and some are not? Should I promote the most visited or the least visited? I would say, in general, without knowing too much about your shop, the ones that are the best are the ones that are the popular ones, the ones that are the best designs, the ones that are the most relevant. You know, if I have unicorn stationery, which I do, and unicorn's like all the rage now, probably best to promote that one. You know, be selective about what you're promoting. When you're saying least visited, Olga, I want to make something very clear. If a listing, listen to this, guys, listen to this tip. If this listing, let's say this scrunchie, is least visited, and you look at the keyword phrases it's visited for, okay? And the keyword phrases are high demand keyword phrases, and when you search for it manually, you find yourself at the top of search, that means your listing just sucks. There's a better one to promote, meaning you give it a chance to survive, people see it, but they don't care for it, okay? Why would you spend money on promoting listings on items that people don't care about? Okay, you can have some, even I do. You can have some listings that in your shop that people don't care about, okay? Whether the design is not there, not really them, whether the design really lacks certain something, I don't know, okay? So to determine which ones are the better ones, pretty much are your popular ones, the ones that are selling. I'd rather pay money to get those shown everywhere, okay? And again, you might say, Dahlia, this one doesn't get shown. Let's say this item doesn't get shown. But I feel like because this item is a really great one, but is competing with a lot of other popular keyword phrases I'm already getting found for, I think if I give it a chance to sign by letting it, you know, use promoted listings, it would work. Then you're more than welcome to. If your gut tells you, if somebody sees this listing, they're going to purchase it. And a lot of times, by the way, your gut can be wrong. Okay, a lot of times we want to believe that our listings are the best, but just FYI, if you've been in the industry for a while and you kind of know, that's when your gut feeling should tell you. Katie, I tend to promote Etsy listings that have more competition. My idea is pushed it to the top. gets purchased and then gets a recency boost. Yes, it is actually a good way of thinking, okay? I use the example of newer items, but I like Katie's example a lot. That's like, hey, you have this item that is not getting a chance to be shown, regardless if it's new or not, right? Imagine there's so many, black scrunchies. I don't know, I'm just making this up. And you're like, this really is a good listing that I have. Great price, good listing, great design, and so much competition. Promoted listings absolutely will give it a chance to survive. And I use the example of new listings because it's like, there's like no listing quality in there. Like it's just brand new. But to Katie's point, yeah, the ones that have a lot of competition can give you a chance to survive. You might say, Dad, this kind of sucks. Does that mean like if I bring up a whole bunch of new, design a whole bunch of new items that have high competition, let's say some sort of jewelry, right? Market, some sort of jewelry niche, I have to pay to get found, at least to give it a boost, to give it a chance to survive? Yeah, unfortunately. And you might say, Dad, does that mean that I have to spend money to make money? In your market, you might have to, unless you're like a patient soul, then fine, take the time, let it build on its own. But if Katie, like Katie, I mean, if you want to be like, what, I'm in this tough market, it's been a couple of weeks, which is not a long time, by the way, but just in case you're like, it's been a couple of weeks, I know it's a saturated market based on the research I did, okay? Let me use promoted listings effectively. And we're going to talk about cost per click in a second, but let me use it effectively to get found. Unfortunately, yeah, Katie and whoever else uses this example will have to spend money to make money, okay? It's an unfortunate truth, while, yes, over time, you may be building yourself to the top. And you may be building yourself to the top without using promoted listings for those heavy competition items. If that item gets found with other phrases that are less competition and it ends up getting sold over and over again, then it builds it up on its own organically, okay? But if you have the patience, if you don't have the patience, then what Katie said is the way to go. Let's move on, which is how much you should bid per item, okay? So the reality is, first you have to set a bid. Remember, we're talking about Etsy promoted listings, which you should be setting a daily bid, the maximum bid. Etsy does not let you pass usually $5 or $10 when you first start. Okay, but if you've been around the Etsy block, promoted listings block, it lets you do $10 or even more if you wish, okay? Do what you feel comfortable. If you can afford $10, which by the way, sometimes it doesn't even hit that. If you can afford it, then do it. That's the first tip you should go by, what you can afford, because in the event it does spend out the max and you don't get the best, like the worst case scenario, you don't get the most return on it. Did you spend like all your life savings that month? You don't want to, right? So do what you feel comfortable with. The idea is you do what you feel comfortable with, and if later you start to see it's working or you implement things that make it work better and you make a better return on your investment, then you could increase the daily bid. Okay, now cost per click. On Etsy, you could pick, like you have several items that you choose to promote. You could choose the cost per click. Now, Etsy gives you an automated bid, meaning this is what they recommend, okay? They say it's recommended based on what others in your industry are bidding and are getting found for on the top page for this amount, okay? If you personally feel comfortable with that amount, I'd recommend starting with that amount. The key here is, listen up, is that over a week or two, preferably 30 days if you got time and money. But if you don't, 2 weeks preferably, okay, to give some time, you want to go back in and check your promoted listings to see if that automated bid, let's call it 25 cents for this item right here, to see if it's costing you a fortune. Meaning, it doesn't matter how much it costs you, the reality, it's matter how much you make from it, okay? Because you wouldn't mind spending $300 a day if you're making $5,000 a day. The fact that you can't probably fulfill those orders in a timely manner is another story, right? But it's not the cost, it's a return on investment. So you have to see if you're spending 25 cents per click, fine, you have to see how well it does for you. Okay, again, first considering the first tips I gave you, which is choosing the right listings to promote, okay? All right, so then using the automated bid is fine, okay? And so what you want to do is choose the automated bid initially, if you feel comfortable with it, then watch it for 2 weeks, okay? And then see what happens. Now, in the worst case scenario, which is why I know you guys are here, because if it was great case scenario, then you would be here, everything will be fine, your promoted listings will be like rocking and rolling. But in the worst case scenario, you're spending way too much, okay? And so what you have to do in 2 weeks' time, you look at your listings, and you can sort by cost, okay? So you're gonna click the cost column, and it sorts it from highest to lowest, okay? And then you start to see the highest amounts. Let's just call it how it is. Let's give you real life examples. Your highest one costs you $12 and you only made $20 off of it. That sucks, okay? It cost you 12, you made 20. You might think it's a positive, but it's not. You want your promoted listings to not pass 20% of the return on investment. So the max you should be spending is $20 to get $100. The max. You should really be keeping it. You should be really working on getting it 10% or below. Okay, so if you're in the 11% to 20% range, give or take, you should really try to work on getting it better without messing up anything. But it really depends on the high key times like Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas. You have to understand you have to spend more. Okay, it's all about quantity of sales, not quality, unfortunately, when it comes to promoted listings, because all your competitors are bidding high to get that top amount. Anyway, so you find that you're spending way too much. Okay, so what do you do when it comes to cost per click? The first thing you do is look at that listing and say, okay, you're costing me too much money. You, listing A, you're costing me too much money. What do you do to it? Well, first of all, understand what's happening, guys. People are clicking and they're not buying. First, before you determine if this listing sucks or not, see how many people actually clicked on it. So in the event that you're spending too much money, but there's not enough clicks, okay, like you feel like this is not really good determination that people don't like this item, then lower the cost. Lower the cost by enough and not too little, meaning you don't want to have a 25-cent bid and lower it down to 5 cents. You might be wiped off the face of the earth. You might not get found again, okay, because you dropped. What you want to do is go to like 20 cents or 18 cents or 17 cents. A decent amount, but not too little, okay? And not too big, okay? So in a 25-cent range, I'll probably go down to 20 cents or maybe even 17 cents, okay? Just kind of see if that would help, especially if you spent a lot of money, okay? Now, the flip side is the item that you spent a lot of money on, remember the $12 cost and you only got $20 back. If it had a lot of clicks, okay, then you can say to yourself, okay, what does that mean? That means people saw this listing and they didn't like it for some reason. It didn't convert them. Why didn't it convert them? Well, you could do two things, okay? The first thing has two pieces to it. The first thing you have to do is check the listing. Maybe it sucks the design. Maybe you don't have the right variations that you offer. Something in that listing didn't help it convert, okay? You might even get opinions of others. You might post a picture of the item, not a link, okay, in the group and ask opinions and say, hey, honest feedback, what do you guys think? Do you think, you know, if you were in the market for this item, would you like this design? Whatever, okay? You have to say to yourself, what makes this item suck? What within this listing is not converting it? In conjunction with that, you have to lower the cost. Okay, because the reality is, even if you fix something in it and it can convert higher, at this moment, maybe you can't afford to keep like having it cost you a lot of money while you're trying to figure out if you can help make this listing convert better. So lower the cost, 25 cents to 20 cents or to 17 cents. Or remove this listing from promoted listings. Because the reality is that this listing may suck, period. Nothing you can do to fix it. It just doesn't work with the general audience. Nobody wants it. It's not in demand, whatever. And you may be so, I mean, you guys are busy people. Like, we're all busy. We may not have a decent amount of time to dedicate to it, to figure out what's wrong with it at this moment while it's spending money being clicked on. So removing it from promoted listing will probably be the best bet, okay, if you don't have the time to work on it. Just to reiterate, it should be no more than 10% of what you are making from sales. It should be anywhere from 1% to 20%, okay? If you go above 20, hold up. Immediately, do what I'm telling you. You should, like I said, the example I gave you was $12 it costed you, you only made $20. That's a huge amount, right? You should immediately check how many clicks it had. If it didn't have enough clicks, lower the cost. If it did have enough clicks, you should fix the listing and lower the cost, or just remove the listing completely. Now, you should be sitting pretty if it's 10% or below. But if it's between 10% and 20%, you should actively try to figure out what's wrong. You can sort again by cost, see what those problem listings are. There's one, it's not all created equal. There are some listings that are costing you more than others. You might have some heroes in there, like some champs, and then you might have some ones that are really dragging you down. Like, you're like, these are doing well. But these three, the problem children, you could edit those. If you have your total cost is costing you 11 to 20%, 11 is fine, but you know what I'm saying, like give or take 20% higher, in the higher range, then you can still work on it as if you were working on listings that are above 20%. It's the same strategy. You go in and you start adjusting. And if you listen to my first advice, promoting listings that are relevant and are popular, or potentially giving new listings a try to survive, which may cost a little bit more money, by the way, because new listings may need to spend more money to get it to be boosted. You could still treat listings, promoted listings, the ones that are higher than 20%, how you fix them, you can still treat the ones that are not higher than 20%, let's say 15 to 20%, the same way, because it's always good to save money. It's always good to make more money and save at the same time, right? It's always good to be more efficient with the money you're spending. Now you don't have to do the work, you have to keep up with it, because promoted listings, like any other advertising campaign, whether you use Facebook ads, whether you promote a listing, whether you use Amazon ads, whatever, you have to, it's like a baby, you have to watch it. Can we all agree that promoted listings, even if you don't do it at the moment, is something you have to pay attention to about once a month? What does that mean? Right now on your phones, if you have promoted listings going on as we speak, go ahead and go into your phone right now. Go ahead and put on your calendar and set an alert that reminds you every single month to check your promoted listings, okay? The other part of that is actually doing the work. So I can tell you all day long what to do, but I find that obviously it takes work. And I'll be honest, some of us fall short on that because we're either so busy or I don't know what other excuse you guys might have, but we have to go in and maintain it. I will address a very popular question that people tend to ask. They find that when they do a strategy, like they set their cost per click 5 cents or 2 cents, like a really small amount, they find that they do really well with that. Here's why people find that they do really well with that and some others don't. The reason why I tell you to check back on your campaigns is for this simple rule alone. There's no definite answer. I'm not telling you, hey, this is the exact bid you're gonna do it. This is the exact formula you should be following. This is exact. That would be silly. Because the reality is we have different items, different demands in our items, different saturations in our markets, different price points. So of course, what is expensive to me, cost per click, may not be expensive to you if you're selling a very high-end item, etc. and so forth, right? So you have to test, okay? You have to test out what works for you. You are more than welcome, though, to say, you know, Dalia, I get you, I understand, I love it, but I'm gonna test going to 2 cents first as opposed to my method. You're more than welcome to, okay? You can start at the lower end as opposed to the automated bid, which is what I recommended, okay? And say, I'm gonna start by 2 cents or 3 cents, okay? But the reality is the same steps follow after that. If you start low, then watch it. When you're watching it, if you start low, you have to also watch the number of impressions. Impressions tell you people actually seeing your ad. Okay, you can still watch the number of impressions if you are using the automated bid. Because during the high times, guys, like Christmas, Mother's Day, whatever, your competitors are also using the automated bid. If you find that you're not having enough impressions, then you might have to increase that bid amount. Okay, so if you're using the cheapest amount or an amount that you feel is too low, monitor over 2 weeks' time, maybe hopefully a month. And so if you feel like it's not a decent amount, okay, if you're like hardly getting found, barely getting found, then what you want to do, okay, is increase that amount. Not too slowly, like you don't want to go from 2 cents to 3 cents or 2 cents to 5 cents, maybe 2 cents to 7 cents, okay? Maybe 2 cents to 10 cents. I don't know, but you can do a small amount. There's no exact answer, but if you can do a super small amount, then you might be screwing yourself over, okay? Meaning it might take you even longer to test it. Never change a bid amount is another side tip, okay? Never change a bid amount or anything like that and only test it for a few short days. I don't care how bad the results are. Because initially I said to you, if you can't afford it, then don't do it. If you can't afford $10 a day, then don't do $10 a day. Do only what you can afford, okay? How is the cost calculated in Etsy? Is this clicks times average cost per click or something else? Oh, so the cost per click is pretty much, let's do Olga's example here on my little calculator, okay? So the cost per click for Olga is 14 cents. We took $87 divided by 620 clicks, okay? It's 14 cents, okay? Now the question for Olga is, how much money did you make out of that $87 that you spent, okay? Here's a side tip before I continue. How do you know your listings are attractive enough to being clicked on? How? You look at the number of impressions, okay, number of impressions, and number of clicks. You take the number of clicks and you divide by the number of impressions, okay? It's your conversion rate for number of clicks compared to people, how much people saw it. If you take the number of clicks, divide by number of impressions, meaning how many people clicked on it that saw it, okay? Compared to, let's say, other listings, impressions versus clicks. You can see the ones that are more popular than others, the ones that are getting found, because when found, at least like your cost per click may not get you found, but when found, are people clicking on it? That's an indicator to you that maybe item has to be worked on. Remember earlier I told you you have to work on it or lower your costs? That's an indicator that your photo or something that people see before they click on it has to be worked on, okay? If you find that the conversion rate for the click to impressions is a decent high amount compared to items that are doing really well, then maybe something within your listing that after they get in the listing, they're not buying. When you're spending cost per click, you are trying to get found in search and get clicked on. But the reality is if something's not working, you have to see if you're even getting found, if your bid is high enough, if you're getting a decent amount of impressions. And then you say to yourself, okay, I'm getting a decent amount of impressions from my understanding, but let's say people are actually clicking on it. Because the reality is, if you're not making money, maybe because your listing sucks. So if people are seeing it but not getting clicked on enough, okay, and you want to look at a 1 to 3% conversion there. If you find that it's a low conversion from clicks to impressions, then chances are something in the photo, probably the design of the item, is not attractive to the customer for whatever reason. Attractive, or they feel like they've seen this before, or it's not worth the price because they see the title, the price, and the photo. Okay? If you find that it's actually a good amount, like if you find like no, Dahlia, my clicks are a really good amount to impressions. I mean, when people see this listing in their feed, they're clicking on it, but it's still not getting sold, or it's still like the cost is still high compared to the amount you're making revenue, then lower the cost and fix something within that listing. All right, if we choose not to go with automated clicks, what's the minimum we should start with per click for jewelry market? That's a tough one because my initial reaction to that, Brenda, is go with the automated bid. I don't know how much automated bid is for your market, but not too far off. Like I said earlier, I can't give you a definite answer. You have to test what works out for you. And Brenda, what you have to do is, essentially, I'm just going to give it to you straight. If you're like, Dahlia, I can't afford it, not going to happen. You may not be able to afford promoted listings depending on your market. But what you could do is go to the lowest amount that you're comfortable with without feeling too cheap. Watch it for a week to 2 weeks and say, okay, I put 5 cents compared to the automated bid of 35 cents. Am I getting impressions? Are people seeing my items? Are they being clicked on? Am I spending the amount I allotted to promoted listings? If not, increase. The idea here is no matter what, the moral of this Facebook Live story is to test. For lower cost items, example, I don't know, pounds, but let's just call it $3, $4 greeting cards. Should I set the bid lower than the higher cost items? I found I was spending a ton on promoting them and not much revenue, but they sell very well otherwise. Yes, you have to find what works best for you. What's the point of being sold if selling a $4 item if the cost is $3 to sell it? Now, the only benefit actually is if Gemma is doing this to get, like what Katie said earlier, is to get listings to be boosted, selling over and over again, to be found on the top of search eventually. Let's say over a course of a few months, Gemma's like, you know what, I'll spend enough to get it pushed to the top, okay? And then after that, I'll lower it. You can do that strategy. So yes, it's a strategy that actually costs you money. I've done that strategy before, guys, by the way, meaning I spend way more than 20%. It's actually a strategy people use, and you're more than welcome to use it if you have the money. But the reality is, if you're not in that business to like do that, then yes, it has to be lower. I've been on Etsy since 2006. I could only bid up to $1. No, I think that's fine. I think what I'm trying to say is that the bid per day. You know how you have a maximum bid per day for the total amount that you could spend. Sorry, not bid, but the spend amount. You guys know what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I never had to go past $1 anyway. Well, I went over already what you should do when you're spending too much and not making enough. I kind of went over the steps. Okay, let's get into Amazon ad campaigns. Okay, a lot of things I said, by the way, are very similar, but the platform I think is better. Okay, in my opinion, it's a little bit more complicated. So in this Facebook Live, it's not going to be like a step-by-step. If you obviously have my Amazon webinar, it goes into it much more thoroughly. So revisit it if you have it, to take what I say today and piggyback on it, okay? So the reality is on Amazon, they have ad campaigns, and you can have ad campaigns, several of them, and then ad sets within the campaign. So within one campaign, you can have several ad sets, okay? And they have 2 different types of ad campaigns, manual and auto. When you first start out, I recommend doing auto. Why? Because the auto campaigns uses the keywords within that listing to get found in search. Simple as that. It's a little bit less stress, and of course, I'm hoping that you did your SEO correctly, where it's pulling in the automated campaigns the best keywords to use. You are using automated campaigns to first start out with. I also like it because, key tip, is that over time you can pull up an ad search report, and in this report, guys, there's many things you can do with this report, okay? I go over in detail in the webinar, the Amazon webinar, but you could pull it up and essentially say to yourself, okay, you're here to make money. You're here to find the most effective keyword phrases, okay? For general, remember, if you're targeting something very specific, then that's something different. But general keyword phrases like personalized stationery, monogram stationery, blah, blah, blah. You find the ones that are most effective to you, meaning people are clicking and the conversion rate's high. There's many things you could do with that information, by the way. I'm only going to go over a few of them in this Facebook Live. What you could do is, okay, you might find that monogram stationery set and personalized note cards are 2 phrases that when people click on it, they purchase. So what do? You could do a manual campaign targeting just those 2 keywords because they high converters for you, and target only the listings that are popular, that are, when they see this and it matches, it's relevant to them. Like, you're not going to target Monogram stationery and not actually put a Monogram stationery in there, right? But pick your best Monogram stationery sets and target that phrase or other high performing Monogram phrases. Okay, so you can look at that ad term search report and say which ones are the most effective, and then do a manual campaign targeting only those effective keyword phrases. Okay, and then using only the listings that are the most popular. And so you can take those phrases and run a manual campaign. Okay, and the manual campaign is pretty much you get to decide which keyword phrases to use to promote a listing or to promote a group of listings. If you have, here's your ad campaign. Okay, that's that big circle on the top. That's your ad campaign. You can set the daily amount for this one. Let's say $10. Okay, you could have different ad sets. So 3 ad sets. Within each one in the manual campaign, you could set different keyword phrases. So this one could have several listings with a group of keyword phrases. This one could have a different set of listings or similar ones, it's fine, with a different set of keyword phrases. So if you want to do one ad campaign but focus on different keyword phrases, you're absolutely able to. So for this one, I could do notepad type of keyword phrases, monogram type of keyword phrases, and kids stationery type of keyword phrases. The point is you could pick and choose which keyword phrases are highest converters for you and group them together. So if I have monogram type of words, monogram type of phrases, I put them all in one ad campaign. And of course, only use listings in that ad campaign that are monogram related. Pretty much telling yourself, you know what? I'm willing to spend the money where I know the money is going to be spent well. Because you've shown in your search term report that those keyword phrases are high converters for you. When somebody types it in, they're looking to spend. Okay, you might need more than 30 days worth of data for this, by the way. I mean, it just depends. You can certainly try out. If you are a slower seller, meaning you only sell a few items a month, this technique may not work for you, because then the highest converters are just a few keyword phrases. And that's not really good enough data for you to determine whether or not it's actually a good phrase. So let me give you other ways to use manual. Okay, this is really key. And you could decide which one to use. And when I say the word decide, that means test. Okay, there's no definitive answer of how to use it. You have to test and adjust. Another way to use manual campaigns is if you have a product or products that the keyword phrase is a very difficult one to get to the top of, because it's a very saturated keyword phrase or whatever. You just want to get to the top of it much quicker. So you could take the keyword phrases you want to get found for. Okay, again, use a manual campaign. What that does is you're telling the system, I want to run an ad campaign, but only in the phrases I choose. And the ones I choose are the ones that I really need to get to the top of search for. Okay? And so what does this mean, guys? This means this campaign itself, you should watch over highly. It should be its own ad campaign. And you want to watch it because it's probably going to cost you some money to get to the top of that search. So you could set your price and say, okay, let me run it for 2 weeks and see if people even see my ad, which you can see by the impressions. Okay? If they're not seeing my ad, it's time to up the price. So you have to kind of watch it. And so when you run this type of ad campaign, you got to see, okay, I'm trying to get to the top of search for this keyword phrase. I know it's highly saturated. Let me see if it's worth it. Let me spend some money and start out by paying this per click. And over 2 weeks, you're going to say, all right, I paid this per click. There's not much impressions. Okay. Nobody's watching. Nobody's looking at my ad because Amazon's not showing it because I'm too cheap. Let me increase this price per click. Okay. If you find in that ad campaign that you have a lot of impressions and you have a lot of clicks, but you're not making enough money out of it, right? Remember we talked about the 20% rule max, right? You should be really 10% or less, but if you're from 10 to 20%, you're still okay. You might want to work on making it better. But if you're 20% or above and you have clicks, right? Because you imagine you spent $12 and only made 20, imagine you spent 50 and only made 70, like that sucks, okay? You have to go in and adjust the amount of cost per click, little by little. If you're running this type of ad campaign where you're trying to get to the top of search in the saturated market, just little by little. So if you're running it at, let's say, $1 per click, run it at 90 cents, 95 cents. You have to find where the happy medium where Amazon still shows your ads, okay, and it's not costing you a fortune. So if you go too low, they might stop showing your ads. All right, and this, by the way, may not be worth it for low cost items, meaning the price of your item is not expensive. okay? Because usually when you're trying to fight to the top, you have to spend a little money. All right, so let's talk about another way to use manual, okay? Another way to use manual is simply trying to target certain phrases, but during, and I mentioned this before in the Etsy promoted listings section of the Facebook Live, but if you're trying to target certain phrases during relevant time periods, okay? People are searching for certain keyword phrases during relevant times. You could bet that those type of phrases are going to be costly, okay? Holiday type of phrases, Mother's Day type of phrases. I mean, you know it's very costly, okay? If you want to use this tip, just go into it knowing that you have to spend some money. So that's another way. Another way on top of that is if you have a very specific item and very specific phrases that people search for that item. This is an envelope, obviously. But if I sell mermaid stationery, and there's quite a few mermaid stationery, nothing crazy, but I want to get to the top of search quickly because I know this is exactly what people would look for if they want mermaid stationery. I would run a manual campaign on this. Now, I would have a campaign and then ad sets. One for mermaid stationery, which will include my mermaid stationery and my mermaid notepad. You could have many ad sets within a campaign. I'd run another ad set that is for my unicorn stationery and only target unicorn phrases. I'd run another one that is a baseball stationery that only target baseball related keyword phrases or baseball lover gifts or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, so then you could say, these are going to be really highly effective. Why? Because when somebody searches for that phrase and they find your listing, the likelihood of it converting into a sale is very, very high because that phrase matches exactly what they're looking for. Unlike phrases that are more general, such as monogram stationery, or maybe not that general, but personalized stationery is very general. I still do very well with that phrase, but you get the point, it's not very specific. So if someone's looking for mermaid stationery and they like my design, you can bet it's turning into a sale, okay? So that's another way to use manual campaigns. So what should we do if we have low price products? Most of mine are $5 to $15. I highly recommend you starting out with cost per click that's lower. So you'll start on the lower end. Okay, so for example, let's just, I don't know what the lower end is for you. Start as low as you want to try and then wait a couple weeks to see if people are actually seeing your ad. But something like 5 cents. Let's just make it up, okay? 5 cents. And then you're going to watch it, like I mentioned earlier, over several weeks and say, okay, are people seeing my ad? Meaning, are there impressions? If there are not, you have to up it slowly. Okay, slowly, because you have to be careful. Your profit margins are very, tight. Okay, so you have to up it slowly until Michelle starts to see enough impressions. Okay, and when she starts to see clicks, she's going to then determine, okay, I upped it from 5 cents all the way to 15 cents. I found that to be a happy medium where people actually see my ads. Now I'm paying attention to clicks because I want to see how much it's costing me over the next several weeks after that. Okay, then when two things could happen. Michelle might see, oh, it's working effectively. I'm only spending this much, making this much. Beautiful. Found my happy medium. Or Michelle may see, which I suspect you guys are listening to this Facebook Live, she's spending too much, okay, for this. It's good to determine if you're spending too much, at least 30 days worth, if not a couple of months, okay, especially if it's not going to break the bank for you. If you're spending $100 a day to find out if it's going to work, that might be very harsh, okay? But you're going to see over 30 days to say, okay, if it's really spending a lot, it's not going to be worth it for you because if you're spending $50 and only making $75, then that's like, okay, that's too expensive. You may have to bring it down and try to find like a little bit lower where you're still being shown, but it's not costing you as much. Okay, Michelle might be playing with this for a little bit, right? However, if she still finds that she's screwed either way, like this, what's happening is that in this manual campaign, this keyword phrase is very expensive, okay? It doesn't mean we can't have Michelle's items be found. She has to target other phrases. I mean, listen, sometimes you have to pay money to make money. Sometimes there's sellers that actually lose money on advertising campaigns. It's a strategy behind it. I'll go over it in a second. But the reality is she might have to change her keyword phrase because let's just say the phrase is personalized coffee mugs. And she's trying, but because she's selling the $10 a mug, she can't afford to have too much cost per click. And when she does put the cost per click as the good amount, it's costing her way too much. And she waited 30 days to see if it's actually effective, and it's just too much. And she tried to decrease it a little bit, but then it still didn't work, regardless if it still didn't work, meaning either she wasn't getting found at all anymore, or it was still very costly. And so she has to change that phrase. That's the reality of it. And I mean, if every phrase was cheap and cost effective, everybody would be doing it, right? Now, let me explain another strategy that some sellers use. I use it myself, not all the time. If you have extra pocket change, I'd consider it. It's my strategy called "How do I wipe my competitors off the face of the earth?" Okay. I know that sounds mean, but I think you guys can relate. Click the like button if you found that funny and not mean. And my strategy really is, you know how I told you to make sure your ad campaigns are the spend is between not more than 20%, probably in the 10% or lower range. Sometimes I go over 20% on purpose. And so if you were to see some of my ad campaigns there, some of them, not all of them, some of them are 20%, over 20% on purpose. And can anybody guess why I do that? And this tip, again, is not for everybody because maybe you don't have money to spend to do this strategy. But it's certainly a strategy you can absolutely use if you have some money. And it works for me, okay? And so I will spend money to make sure those items stick itself to the top of search, because you know in every single platform that the more sales you get, the more relevant it becomes. And Amazon absolutely loves sales. And so, yeah, I spend a little bit of money. It's almost like, I mean, it's obviously advertising dollars, but it's a little higher because for me, my category does fairly well, not fairly, does very well on Amazon. And so I will spend a little bit more money to make sure that over time, I get stuck on the top of search. And yes, over time, you can eventually remove that high cost because you won't need it to be that way all the time, because eventually your item will get stuck on the top of search. So I spend the money, sometimes a little bit more, because it will stick my items to the top of search. It is no coincidence, okay, that in conjunction with my SEO and this, like I'm at the top of search for most of my keyword phrases. I decided to implement the strategy of wiping my competitors off the face of the earth. You know, it's not always the case, depending on what ad campaign I decide to pause or not. You know, if you're not making money at all in your business, it's probably not a great strategy unless you have like a nice little savings fund, you know, dip into your kid's college fund. No, I'm kidding. But you get the point, like, I have obviously some profits in the business, so I'm able to spend it and not hurt me too much. So I know, I've seen it over time. I get stuck on the top of search. If my competitors are kind of on me, I will up my spend per click to get them completely off the first page. That's business, okay? Should I change to manual and search what keywords they are buying from and target those with ads? I would do both. If your auto campaign is working well for you, leave it be, and then take up the keywords like you said that work really well for you and do manual, okay? Because those are high converters for you. And just a side note, you know, don't forget when you're adding new items to your shop, they don't automatically get listed within your ad campaigns. You have to go in and add them, okay? Erica says, have you talked about what's a decent amount of impressions? I have not, because to be honest, I test. So what happens is, I don't know what's decent for my business. It could be different for your business, right? Impressions is how many people actually have seen that listing without clicking on it, right? My category may be very, very popular compared to yours. And so I can't give you that number. What you want to do though, Erica, is say, okay, let me see. This week I had 5,000 impressions or whatever, this day, whatever, this week. Okay, that's looking good. Let me see if I could increase my spend a little bit and see if that improves. Okay, again, it's all about testing and finding a happy medium. So if Erica says, okay, I'll increase it by 10 cents because I can afford to, because she sees the spend compared to the revenue, it's pretty decent. I'll increase it by 10 cents. Let's see if I can get more people to see my ads within a week's time. Remember, compare the same amount of time frame. So if you compare 5,000 impressions over a week's time and you increase your cost per click, compare the next week, right? And say, okay, the next week I increase it by 10 cents. And I got 10,000 impressions, and it's still cost effective. Okay, so there's no real guideline because every demand for product markets are different. Okay, I'm really struggling that the CPC seems so high. I'm well over 50 cents, but not getting seen much. Okay, I've done a handful of clicks, they're adding up fast. Question, is this an auto campaign or manual? If it's an auto, have you pulled the search term report to see which phrases are doing better than others as far as impressions? Okay, because some of the phrases might be bringing you down, maybe costing you money, but nobody's purchasing. So you have to go in and say, okay, I have 5 phrases being targeted, and 3 of these phrases it sucks. Like it's costing me money, not making anything. But 2 of these phrases are decent. And this is an example. You probably have many more phrases, okay? And that's from an auto campaign. Because something's costing you that money. If it's not working for you, something's costing you that money. And it's the phrases that are not highly effective for you. And I'm going to piggyback on that and say for the manual, it's the same idea. You could check the phrases that are not really performing for you and remove them off a manual campaign, that's why I love manual campaigns. You can remove them and say, oh my God, this phrase, I love it, but it's not performing for me. It's costing me money. And on top of that, Erica, have you figured out all the phrases that you could target, you know, whether it be in the manual campaign or auto. Maybe you're missing some phrases that are really the drivers for your type of product. Or last bit of advice is that maybe that's the most of impressions you actually can get for that market. Okay, Erica says, I tested both. I haven't made any sales from ads in several months. I've been tweaking and taking it off listing and phrases that are very clean clearly eating up a lot of my money. Okay, so let me just recap what Erica said. She's like, I have made no money, I only spent, okay? People are clicking, that's how it's costing you money, but they're not converting, okay? And I know you probably worked on your conversions within the listing, okay, but they're not making you money. Now, Erica, you don't have to mention it here, but I'm gonna say it to everybody here. You can message me privately if you want, or post it in the private Amazon group. But question for you is, how much have you spent already, right? You don't have to answer it now, like I said, it's not nobody's business. But how much have you spent already, and what time frame, and how many clicks was that? It's helped to understand, like, okay, you know, did Erica give it? So Erica gave it several months time, okay? But how much was that spent in several months time? And if it's 50 cents per click, that answers that. But how many clicks was it, just to make sure we're all on the same page? And is it an auto campaign? Is it targeting the wrong words that people are not converting with? Okay, because you said you made no conversions with it, you made no sales. Then is it best to move to a manual and choose what you feel may be the better ones? Okay. Again, some of these questions you may not want to answer here. You could obviously message me privately. Angela says, I did not get approved for Amazon handmade, so I'm setting up an Amazon custom account. I can't run ads until my listing is eligible for buy box. Correct. It isn't eligible until I've had sales and have performance stats. Any advice? I hate the idea of sending my email list there because I've been training them to shop at my.com. I agree with you, Angela. I'm very much about trying to drive traffic to my Amazon shop to get to the top of search and make sales there, but I don't want to confuse my email list. It's really important to me. And so I kind of see both ways, right? But I'm with you on that. You know, if, you know, for Amazon custom, I don't know how recently you set up, but it's important to try to target phrases that are not super highly saturated with ones that are highly saturated, because if it makes sense for your product, if you're selling blue felt tip markers and that's highly saturated, then sure, you can still put it in there because it obviously describes your product. Hell, put it in the title, it makes sense. But try to see keyword phrases that are not super saturated, so then at least you get found for something that's a really good match for it and get sold. And eventually, if it keeps getting sold, it may end up appearing on the more popular search term results. There are some other ways that people bring in sales, but I'm not sure if it's allowed on Amazon. I'm not getting any views, 0 with SEO. Okay, Angela, the follow-up question for you is, if you're not getting any views, have you looked manually for all the keyword phrases that you've been trying to get to the top of search for? So for example, if you sell coffee mugs, have you looked up the phrase you've been trying to get found for? Black coffee mug, personalized coffee mug, blah, blah. Search them all manually and see where you fall in search. Because we have to kind of see Angela not being found because her SEO needs better work. Is it because she needs more sales to help that? Or is it because she's found in search but nobody's clicking? Does that make sense? You have to kind of eliminate those possibilities. And another follow-up question for Erica is, how long ago did you list your products? Like, was it several weeks ago? Because it may take a little while, for you to get found. We discussed, I think, on Amazon, I just can't really compete with the really cheap products that dominate my category. So if that's my issue, I wonder if I should just stop ads altogether so I can figure out how to be more competitive with my category. I'm trying to think if this was me. If this was me and I was spending a whole bunch of money on ads. And you said people are clicking, So there's some interest. And if you think it's the cost, okay, like the price of your products, it's obviously a good, concern. Erica, I believe you're getting, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you're getting found in search, but people are not converting. Is that right? But for Erica's situation, I mean, honestly, like if I was paying and paying and paying, I would think something's wrong with my listing. And Erica, I'm just guessing, can't afford to lower her prices. She's like, nope. I know it's a strategy, by the way, to lower your prices to get sales, and then you get stuck on top of search. But Erica, let's just say it, maybe she can or she can't, but let's say she can't afford to lower her prices. She can't afford to take a hit, every single time she makes a sale, even though it might keep her to the top of search, okay? But as far as ad spending to make sales to get to the top of search, she's not even making the revenue. It's important to understand why people are clicking and not buying. And if you feel like you're confident in it because of your price and you ran it for several months and literally have not made one sale out of it, and you've tried to lower your cost per click and it still was costing you money and nobody's buying, it's probably best to turn off the ads, because people are clicking, they're not buying for several months. And the purpose of ads is to spend money to make money, not just to spend money and that's it. I don't want people just to look at me. I want people to look at me and buy, to figure out why people are not converting. And because of your peers, Erica, I know your peers, meaning people that sell similar items as you do, they are converting. Your products are not prime. Is it because a mixture of prime and the price? You know, the price thing, I completely understand, but if your products look similar to everybody else's, theirs is cheaper, I could definitely understand. Mine is expensive compared to my, well, not expensive, but a little higher price compared to my peers, but we have different designs. So my designs may speak to them more than somebody else's, and they'll pay the extra few bucks. Mine's just a few bucks extra than the competitors. And that may make fine, but if yours is much more than a few bucks, that could be the determining factor why they're not purchasing. All right. So a few things I want to mention before I continue reading the comments is that after you do this and you do that and you try to figure out what's wrong, whatever, you still want, like I said, you have to take care of these ad campaigns. You have to go back at least once a month and see how it's doing, okay? And you have to say to yourself, okay, within manual campaigns, you could go in and see which keyword phrases are not working for you, okay? Meaning they're costing more than they're making. So what you're going to do initially, like I mentioned in the Etsy one, you go in and say, okay, this one is costing me way too much. Let me lower the cost per click for this keyword phrase, okay? Leave the other ones high because they're doing well. These certain phrases, they're not doing well. Let me lower it. And then again, monitor it. You might say, that sucks. I changed it and have to wait another few weeks to check it out. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the name of the game, okay? To see how it eventually performs. When you change cost per clicks, anything you change on your ad campaigns, take notes. Maybe have a little notebook that's called Amazon Ad Campaigns or Etsy Promoted Listings, and make notes of what you changed and what date. Okay, it's important. So then you can look back and say, oh, it's been a month. Let me check how this is doing. Okay, this is so important because changing it, there's no point in changing it if you don't know how to track it. Okay, so it's important to go in and check, see what's doing well, and adjust. Particularly adjust the money that's being spent, whether positive or negative, meaning lower it, right, because it's too costly, or higher it. Okay, and don't be alarmed if 1 month, let's say if you're doing 15% usually the cost to revenue, but 1 month we did to 20. Doesn't mean you have to start like changing everything. It could be a fluke, it could have cost you more this month than another month. You don't have to change something that really has to be changed. If over a month's time something's really, really costly. And says I'm getting where is it? I'm getting sales but not from ads, and the ones that are clicking are not buy on those. They are buy the non-ad ones. So they shop within your store, that's fine. That should count towards your ad campaign. Meaning if they land on your shop or they buy something else, I believe that counts towards your ad campaign, meaning it shows that you made a sale from it. So technically it shows that you should be showing that you actually made a sale from it, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's how Amazon works. We found that there's definitely several ways for you to address problems and troubleshoot, okay? It's just a matter of actually doing the work. No ad campaigns can be just put out there and left to like do its thing. You have to monitor, okay? And of course, you have to go in and actually do the work. It could be that sometimes ad campaigns may not work for you, especially during certain time periods of the year. It may not work. Usually they're more effective during holiday season only because people have their wallets out more. Okay, or during holiday times like Mother's Day, Father's Day, whatever, depending on your business. The reality is because of your price, because of the competitive market that there is, people may click and spend your ad money and not end up purchasing. Amber, is there a way to adjust the time of day that your ads run? I tend to hit my spending budget by the mid-afternoon, but most of my sales come afterwards. Oh, sales. Okay. No, the only way to do it, to be honest, is to turn it on and off. So meaning in the morning when you wake up, turn off your ad campaigns and set an alarm. By afternoon, turn it on. I know that's annoying. You have to do it every single day. But that's the only way to do it. So guys, I'll let you guys go. I had a really great time seeing you guys again. And I will see you Tuesday for another Facebook Live. Okay? Bye.